What up, good people? Welcome to a brand new season of Whatever We Want with J and K. He is J. Jamal Sterling.
She is K. Khalilah Elliott.
Season 3, Jamal. Season 3. Woo! Can you believe it? We finished out season 2, which is crazy to think we've done 2 seasons of this show already, but 2 full seasons. Wow. Each show has like 20 episodes. So if you haven't gotten caught up, go ahead and get caught up because we got a lot in store. For those who have gotten caught up, we about to hook you up. We about to hook y'all up. But I'll just say real quick, just to catch everybody up. We've been busy because you just finished a show. You just wrapped Fences, a week ago?
Ooh, yeah.
Yep. So how was that process? You good? Glad that that's over? I mean, I know it's always fun,
man, but I love doing the shows. This show was far away as a drive, so lower these gas prices. Thank you, Joe Biden, for bringing down the gas. I love you. Hey, yo, we need to give props to Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, we got a lot to thank Joe Biden about this morning because pretty soon I'm hoping that his recent announcement, for those who may be living under a rock, or maybe you may not be living under a rock, maybe you don't care about this, but for those of us who care about cannabis-related legislation, Sleepy Joe, as some like to call him, or Uncle Joe, as we like to call him, recently, what was he announced a bill to or did he help me get it right, Jamal? He released an executive order to overturn previous federal convictions for
marijuana. So if you've been convicted of possession of marijuana,
lower level possession
of marijuana, you are going to get some relief as far as like getting out of prison or not having to be having your term brought down. Mm-hmm. It's dope. I think. I mean, it's
literally
a long time coming, literally, because it's not.
When
we talk about like it's the game we played with marijuana for the longest, as if it's like a real hard drug. Is
right. I mean, we know what it is. We've done this. I think on this program repeatedly. Right. Like, and every time I have conversations with because my family is starting to be aware that I'm a consumer. So the conversations often, there's a lot of people who have a lot of feelings about it, but I kind of lean in the side of looking at the legislation of alcohol, right? Like anything, that you're not doing in moderation can be extreme, right? But that's the benefit of having things that are federally mandated and regulated is that you can avoid certain things. You can avoid people slipping stuff into your product. You can avoid being price gouged for things, right? It's just, and there's no need for it to be. Go ahead.
What does it say? When you're extreme on weed, it's a long nap. It's driving really slow in traffic. It's eating a lot of food.
You're gonna fall asleep. You might not be, if you're a younger person and your brain cells haven't formed. That I would encourage you to slow your roll a little bit because it will impact your memory cells. At this point, my memory is shot anyway. But as a general rule, I'm my feelings about this.
It's fine, man. It's fine.
Yeah, but so interesting. You were talking about Biden, and so that makes me think about DC. So I just came back from Congressional Black Caucus last week, which is one of the many trips that I've been on. And so I feel like that is a perfect, it was a great week. For those of you who may not be familiar, the Congressional Black Caucus is a regular legislation caucus. I think this was like the 51st year they've done it or the 51st occurrence of it. And all these, Black legislators, community leaders, organizers, heads of institutions, and just Black folks who are invested in the community in general show up to the conference. And there's just a lot of community power building that happens during that week. So it was a great time to be there in DC. But for me, the biggest takeaway is that as we are recording this episode of Whatever We Want, exactly a month out from midterm elections. So Jamal, I know you got some stuff you want to say. How you feeling about prospects as we head into midterm elections?
I don't feel as bad as I used to feel because thankfully, I say thankfully, it's a bad thankfully. Roe v. Wade has got a lot of fire under a lot of people. So it's not going to be because it was going to be a Democrat slaughter. The Democrats are going to get slaughtered. And now I don't think that's going to happen now. I think that some seats are going to change. I think we may lose power in the House. But as far as the Senate goes, I think we're going to keep the Senate. Mainly it's going to be a slim, but mainly due to Ralph Warnock running against a moron in Herschel Walker. Dude, if we talk about, can we talk about Herschel Walker for a second?
Yeah, you can talk about Herschel Walker, but here's my only caveat because I want to caution us I want to remind us of the media circus that was Donald Trump's political campaign and all the free advertisement that he got from the news coverage. So for me, I have been very intentional to not mention Herschel Walker's name at all, other than the conversation that you and I had a while back, because I'm just like, he needs no press. Your boy Warnock is the one we need to be like making sure. But go ahead, you were about to say.
Well, I think the only press I'm giving him is bad press.
Oh, for sure.
And the only press that he can get is bad press because
he's an idiot.
So you heard the whole thing about him being against abortion, and then a woman just came forward and said that he had an abortion and wrote her.
Of course,
he made her have an abortion and wrote her gave an abortion card, like saying thank you for having an abortion, like a literal card.
Wow.
His own son has come for him basically like, yo, dude, you wasn't around, you never took care of us.
And then I think at one point he was claiming that one of the children that he had outside of wedlock or what have you, he was claiming that he didn't even know the woman. They were like, but you are paying child support. And sir, there's such a thing as DNA. We don't have to debate this with you. So unless you got a hold of your royal seat somehow.
But here's the thing. It's a theme that I've been beating the hell out of. Mm-hmm. If a black person says that they love conservative values,
come on, somebody.
That person can be deaf, dumb, blind, crippled, crazy, name anything else. They gonna run him like they a regular person. And no planet should Herschel Walker be in anybody's election for
consideration for right. Which so you
quite honestly, you can tell he has brain damage. You can tell he has brain damage.
He is a perfect walking poster child for CTE. It's like, come on, dude, look at this. Check this out.
So part of me is just like, I can't stand the dude, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, yo, dude, you really shouldn't be walking around. You need to be somebody in somebody's home somewhere.
He said you shouldn't be walking around.
I don't want this dude with a car. I don't want to be nowhere near this dude. Oh, my God. So I just hope Raphael Warnock, it is a shame that Raphael Warnock.
This is even right. That it is.
This race is close.
Yeah,
and I'm like, Raphael Warnock has to be like, wow, how? Yeah. At least the other person had a pulse. Like I don't get it.
Well, I just want to remind you all again. Please get out and do your civic duty. I will also, by the way, so I got a jury summons maybe a few weeks ago, and I had to reschedule. Like I'm definitely going to serve it, but I had to defer it because I'm traveling in out of town during the time that I was initially called for. So I rescheduled it for a few weeks later. But I want to use this as an opportunity to plug for our friends who, again, want to remind you all, elections are coming up. If you haven't registered to vote, please go register to vote. But also a big part of that is as we talk about how the system is rigged against us when you don't serve on juries. I have served on a grand jury, you all, in New York City. And I can tell you, I was one of maybe 3 Black people, one of maybe 5 people of color in a jury pool of about 25 people. Okay. Wow. And when the evidence was being presented, because in a grand jury, all you have to do is get an indictment, right? Like you just need to believe that there's a possibility that this crime could have happened. You don't have to necessarily have evidence, right? Or proof, a solid proof. That's what the trial is for, right? What was crazy to me, and I'm the child of law enforcement parents, I grew up around cops. So I understand the system. Or I understand the people within the system, right? But what would happen was I'm watching these cops come in and testify, present their case, and the system is designed for you to just assume that what the cops are saying is true. And what I unbelievably, overwhelmingly noticed is that it was so much easier for us to drop indictments on people of color. But when we start having people who were not white people of color, so white people, when we were looking at their chart, now we're starting to look at the nuance of situations and we'll consider. And so I just want to raise and I also want to point out, I lived in New York City for almost 10 years. Okay. And I was a registered voter the entire time. I lived in Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy. I lived in Brooklyn and Flatbush, which are all predominantly neighborhoods of people of color, working class homes, working class families. I lived in Harlem, same type scenario. It wasn't until I moved to the Upper East Side, which is a place where a lot of very wealthy people and primarily white people live, that I got summoned for jury.
That's where George Jefferson's from, y'all. George Jefferson.
Yeah, absolutely. Moved on up to but I say that to underscore the importance of jury duty of so we talk about registering to vote, and I know what a pain it can be to serve jury duty, and there's all kind of frustrating things that I feel like are blocks to people, particularly lower income or people of color, who, having to serve because you have to take days off work and all this other stuff. But all of that to say, I hope that if you get summoned for a jury, you won't dismiss it or try and get out of it, because I promise you, when you serve on a jury, you will see how easily our lives are like upended. At another time, maybe after the show, Jamal, we can go into. I'd be happy to tell you the story of a literal two very different stories and the difference in the outcome, and hearing how the juries perceived it. It was just insane as a person of color to listen how we never got the benefit of the doubt, and they always did. So interesting. Maybe we'll pick that up in after the show. But anyway, so
in the bonus.
So you mentioned Black conservative. So we got to talk about the elephant in the room. Faux conservative is like what I like to call it. So what's going on with your boy? Yay!
Oh, okay.
I don't even want to waste my breath on this.
Okay, we're gonna make this fast.
Yes, please.
Because first of all, so unless you don't live on the planet Earth, I actually met somebody, one of my actor friends said, "Hey, something going on with Kanye?" And I was like, "For real, you don't?"
Since 2005,
Kanye. So since 2005.
Kanye, when did Donda die? I'm gonna look it up, because I'm gonna tell you that's when it started to go downhill.
Man, I wish I could bring her back. Donda,
yes, Lord, she was a miracle worker. Now we're very clear. Yes.
So Kanye.
Yes.
For those who don't know, it's the Fashion Week in Paris, correct?
Yes, Paris Fashion Week.
And Kanye West I don't understand Kanye's fashion sense. I've always been confused.
He has no fashion sense, but it's an emperor has new clothes. Emperor has new clothes, no clothes type of thing, where people just go along to, because he's popular. But go ahead, you were saying.
So homeless couture is what I call it. Anyways, it looks terrible. It's always like it's bad decision making. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Kanye West decided to come out here with a T-shirt, and the back of the T-shirt it says, "White Lives Matter." Mm-hmm. So like, and
along with his home girl. Yeah.
The topper of that is that he had Candace Owens with him, as they're both wearing the White Lives Matter T-shirts.
Candace, I replaced Stacey Dash Owens. Even Stacey Dash is like, damn, Candace, really?
Like, Stacey Dash isn't going to find out this news for another year.
She's like, right. Oh, Nia Long broke up with her.
So, we ain't talking about that.
Yeah, we coming to it.
So, with that said, I'm not going to say, if you need to know my feelings on Kanye West, our feelings on Kanye West, Van Latham, formerly of TMZ fame.
Yes.
Who got to the very famous argument Kanye West.
Yes.
That's like literally, it's been retrending over again. Just watch it on YouTube. It's all over Instagram.
Yep.
Kanye is, first of all, number one, Kanye has mental problems. Number two, Kanye is a joke. Like literally, he's at the point of where parody becomes real, becomes parody. Like you can't tell.
It's performance art. It's almost like, what's your boy's name? The comedian, Man in the Moon. I can see his face.
Are you talking about Andy Kaufman?
Yes, the difference is Andy Kaufman was a genius who knew how to control himself. That's the difference.
Right.
You know? Like,
there's a point to it somewhere in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to say something here too. And y'all, we're not finna beat a dead horse about this Kanye thing. Y'all know how we feel. We don't have to say it. If y'all been rocking with us this long, y'all should know.
We just hate we have to talk about it.
Right. We do have to cover it. It's pop culture. It's happening in the news right now, in the news cycle. But what I will say is, I want to hone in on this thing about mental health, right? Because I think that you have a lot of people who are addressing Kanye's antics, and they're either leaning on the side of ignoring his mental health issues totally, or using his mental health issues as a screen cover for bad behavior. And I want to say this as someone who has battled with depression and anxiety, who takes medication for it, who's gone to therapy for it, and everything else. If you are seeking treatment and you have been encouraged by your physician, your doctor, your therapist, whatever, to be on some kind of regimen, if you have to take medication, as frustrating as that may be, you may need to do that to maintain your chemical balance, your sanity. And I think what we're seeing is, for a long time, Kanye was taking his meds, and he was probably going to therapy, most likely when his mother was alive. And regardless as to why or what happened in his life, or who, maybe have enabled him, or who, gave up, whatever. At the end of the day, when people have mental health problems, they are still responsible for their actions, right? His mental health issues are not so extreme, you all. And I say this, not to put all my business out there, but I'm someone who's been diagnosed with bipolar in the past. And I can tell you that's not an excuse for bad behavior. I don't go off and rant on people and, threaten people that I care about and I love, because that when your behavior gets to be that extreme, I need people to understand when someone's behavior is that extreme, this goes beyond just being classified as having bipolar. This is someone who is deeply, deeply damaged and needs to be both seeking a counselor's support and getting on some kind of medication. He's dangerous. Like the stuff he's posting, I was like, yeah, go ahead.
And I think like you're saying, it's beyond. I want to make sure people understand. It's not about him disagreeing with us. We care less about that.
We don't care about that.
What I care more about is him like straight, like that him encouraging Pete Davidson to kill himself.
Yes.
Or him encouraging his fans to throw stuff at Kid Cudi.
Right. Yes.
At a concert, knowing that Kid Cudi has had a long history of depression. Hello. So I mean, it's and also, him threatening. I'm not a fan of Kim Kardashian, but when you're in the press and you're threatening your girlfriend, you're threatening your ex, and being real intimidating.
Yes.
That's stuff that would.
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But my thing is like that's stuff that if you weren't Kanye West, they'd be sending the police after you. It'd be a restraining order. You'd be going to somebody's jail.
Absolutely.
So that's my whole point. Like I don't care about the disagreements. There's lots of jackasses we disagree with, but once it gets to the line of like literally at the Kid Cudi concert, a dude threw like bottles being thrown at this dude's face. I'm like, yo.
Yeah.
Like this what you tell your fans to do?
All because he said he's not my friend anymore, which is true. You've been on
right.
But you know what? Here's the only thing I want to say, and I want to wrap this Kanye segment up because it's so ridiculous. I do want to highlight the fact that a number of people obviously spoke out about his White Lives Matter whatever you want to call it, escapade this past week. But fashion editor and director Gabriella, and I apologize if I mispronounce her last name, Karifa Johnson. She's a sister who is very well respected in the fashion industry and was there at the show. She's written for Vogue and I believe is still currently employed as an editor at Vogue at the moment. But at any rate, she tweeted out or posted on her Instagram story in response to the show, quote, "The t-shirts this man conceived, produced, and shared with the world are pure violence. There is no excuse. There is no art there. The danger is that this very premise, the idea that white supremacy is in danger of extinction, is what justifies mass incarceration, murder en masse, indeed, even the advent of slavery." So I just want to lift her up. He did go after her. He sent a bunch of his fans after her. Fortunately, her employer, Vogue, was mum, because that's his people. Anna loves him. Anna Wintour loves him. So they were mum on it. But a lot of other folks, including like Gigi Hadid and some other folks, big heavy hitters in the fashion industry, took to defending her. And I just want to point out that a lot of people had something to say about Kanye. Jaden Smith, Wu-Tang Clan had something to say. Boozy had something to say. Wu-Tang. But it's interesting that the person he chose to go after and attack and purely focused on her physical appearance was a Black woman. So there it is. So I'm just going to leave. That's all I want to say. But I do want to end on her words, which is, there is no excuse. There is no art here. Point blank, point period. It is what it is.
That's a good thing.
So, anyway, in other news.
Okay, I gotta bring up something. This might be a tense subject.
Oh Lord.
Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh Lord.
All right, so Jada Pinkett Smith is releasing a book about her marriage. It's a book that she's going to release about her marriage. It's going to be about the intimate details.
Is it about her marriage, or is it I thought it was a memoir about herself, her life. That includes her marriage.
Yeah, as it was described in what I read up, I think it's a People magazine reading. It was about her marriage. A huge chunk of it is about her marriage. And I just have to say, can we not? Can we just have a break? Can you just, Jada, Jada, take some acting roles. Do some more stuff. I think what needs not to happen anymore is we don't need to know any more about the Smith family. For pro or con, Will and Jada Smith, whatever, I am for the train of y'all need to take a break as far as releasing y'all personal information about yourselves to the public. Both of y'all. But I think he should chill I think he needs to chill on social media. I think she needs to chill on sharing stuff. Keep the red table talk, keep yourself out of it. Y'all need to chill and kind of maybe repair what's going on inside of there. Because obviously everything ain't right.
Can I say?
That's my feeling.
Can I say, you're going to be shocked to say, I agree with you. I agree with you. When I saw the y'all know where I have stood on this Jade and Will thing for a long. I probably am one of the few of your friends who are like, I think Jada gets a lot of heat that's not deserving. I'm not saying I agree with everything, but I do think she catches a lot of slack that's not deserving. That said, when I saw,
I agree with that too.
Yeah. Now that said, when I saw Will first come back to social. We already talked about this on the show. I was like, I feel like you should have hung back. And again, so that was one. Apple just dropped the trailer for his new film, which we knew they had already hoped that was going to be an Oscar contender. So they can't hold the project, right? So I figured that was going to come in. Although if it were me and I were in the marketing department, I would have been like, can we push that to next year? Because we can't do anything with this. But when I saw that she was dropping her memoir, I was like, timing is everything. And I had the same thought, Jamal. I was like, and y'all know, I like Jada. I actually do think she's been villainized in this thing way more than is necessary. But I did have that thought of, sometimes I think wisdom says, just don't pour fire onto the flame. I'm not saying don't live your life. I'm not saying live by other people's standards. But honestly, even from a business perspective, because I keep going back to the business and the marketing side of things, you're not hot right now. Your brand is damaged right now. So focus on rebuilding yourself, your marriage, if you're choosing to stay married, and focus on that. That's but again, we don't know. Maybe she's using this as a distraction. Maybe they're using this as a distraction,
I like, and this is kind of going back to Will. I was talking to my friend Dominique, and we
what up, Dominique?
Something which is rare. Is that Dominique Daniel? We agree that Will Smith does not know how to, they don't know how to social media properly. They don't know how to,
I agree. They used to, though. They don't know how to do it in the midst of a scandal.
He did.
Yeah.
So, I look at somebody like The Rock, and The Rock is one of the kings of social media, right? Mm-hmm. There's some things we don't know about The Rock. Mm-hmm. We don't know his children's names. We don't know his wife's name. We don't even know if he has a wife. I'm not even sure if he has a wife.
He's married, but
a significant other.
Yeah.
But he's very good at it's very much promoting the product, kind of sharing his brand as far as
like
Beyonce.
Beyonce is the queen of it. You don't know nothing about Beyonce that she don't want you to know.
But another one, Beyonce, Jay-Z, king and queen of how to handle it, right? Mm-hmm. I think they just need to go back and you can share yourself, but we're losing that actor mystery. That if you're in our face all the time, why do we want to go to your movie?
It's even that for me, because I don't necessarily agree with that perspective, because look at what we do. We share a lot about our personal lives. I way more than you do. I think obviously I wasn't expecting to talk about my mental health on this show today, but here we are. And I do that for transparency. Honestly, I do that because when I feel led to, because I think that it's helpful for people to sometimes know that I have a lot of people who I talk to, especially younger people who, not to make this about me, but who look up to me, and I feel like it's important to let them know, oh no, I struggle too. You know what I mean? So for those reasons, I do feel like transparency and being open and being willing to be vulnerable with people is helpful. We just got through talking about Kid Cudi. Kid Cudi has literally helped to save people's lives by being open about his experiences. But that being said, I think I go back to your initial point, which is, but time and place for everything. When you need to heal, when I've been going through my healing and my wouldn't have come here and shared what I was going through, the trauma I was going through in the midst of going through it. It's you got to go through it and heal from it to even know what lessons you gleaned from it. So, just again, we don't know those people, but based on what we've seen and it not having even been a year, it just feels like, give it some time, y'all.
Chill. Just chill. Y'all rich.
Yeah. Even when you said it, I was like, oh, I actually agree.
All right. So I got a topic from a viewer topic.
Oh, okay.
You got this viewer topic too, but I'm going to remember. I'm going to get the points.
This must be the viewer that you married to.
Oh, no. This is the viewer that you sisters with. Kendra, what's up, Kendra? How you doing?
What up, K-Tail?
So Kendra gave us a call and said she wanted us to talk about something. She sent us video. And it's a video of some dancers at a USC game, University of Southern California.
I forgot about this. I'm so glad you skipped this topic.
She sent the video, and it's a video of these dancers, this black dance troupe. I guess that troupe, is that the right word? Troupe is
they call themselves a majorette troupe, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Majorette troupe, something like that. Yeah. They're doing their dances. They're doing a dance at USC. They're doing it in the stands. Now, the controversy over this, and it is a controversy, is that this is seen as what it is, a historically black college tradition. That the majorettes came out of historically black colleges, and especially that style of dancing.
Yeah.
So a whole bunch of people got online when they saw it happen at USC, and they felt some type of way about it. They're like, yo, they still in the culture and giving it to the white university. So I want to know your opinion. What do you feel about these young sisters coming out here and dancing at USC in the tradition of, say, a Grambling or a Southern?
Yeah, because you can't say Dillard because we don't have a major.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Dillard. I'm gonna encourage you, Dillard, to get yours together.
Yeah, we gotta get a band first.
I know, right?
They're like, you go to an HBCU without a band? Mm-hmm.
Yes, that we did.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I had to sit with this one for a second. So first off, I don't remember the young lady's name, but I believe I heard that she's a Delta. So shout out to her. You know, Delta women always trying to innovate, change things up. I appreciate the fact that this young woman, one of the things that I did hear her say, she's done been on different television news programs or what have you. And one of the things I consistently hear her saying is how she wanted to be able to bring our culture, to the space, to every space that we inhabit, which I do think is important. I work very hard, even in, my business dealings. I stopped code switching. Because I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, I want to be my full self everywhere I go, right? So I do think that part of it is fantastic. And I also think young people should be encouraged. And I think we should never rain on their parade in the way that I think a lot of people have. Now, that being said, I do think that when the things that are sacred to us are being brought out for the rest of the world to see, that there should be a process of education, right? I think one, the fact that, as far as I know, these young ladies weren't necessarily trained in the style of tradition by someone who actually went to an HBCU and had that training. There is a young man who I believe is the choreographer, and he has some knowledge, but anybody who knows that tradition knows there's usually, a captain. There's a specific style of dance. There's a specific code that all these movements. And the reason I bring that up is because these young ladies have been on a lot of different programs. And recently they were in their local LA area, and they were showing the newscasters how to do these dances.
Yeah, I saw that video.
So the newscasters, I can't figure out if the woman was black. She may have been fair skinned, but the gentleman was definitely not a black person. And what ensued was you've all seen those videos where black Greeks go on a news station and they try and copy us, and it feels like mockery as opposed to really understanding that this is tribal for us. This is ancestral for us. This is an expression of our culture. So I think that is a lot of the concern, that anytime something that was created in our community is taken outside of that context and presented in a non-black environment, the ridicule, the mockery, and then eventually the imitation that does not acknowledge that. So I'll say not even just the imitation, the appropriation that does not acknowledge the initial culture. So I think the initial reaction is the same initial reaction we have anytime something that we hold near and dear is all of a sudden come out into the mainstream. We're like, wait a minute, because we see what happens. So right. I'm not one of those people who are like, they shouldn't do it, but I would strongly encourage that if other programs or other schools or other young people who are going to PWIs, and it's that feeling too. I'm not going to lie. There's a little bit of that feeling of, if you want the HBCU experience, go to an HBCU. Like, the reason they want to do this is because they like what it feels like to be at an HBCU. I want to be clear. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, if you're going to do something like that, there are levels to this. Yeah. And I do wonder if those young ladies it does not look to me like they've had the proper guidance. And I'm not saying that they did this maliciously or that they should be, They should not be getting the shade that I think they're getting, but I do think someone should step in and say, let me kind of help y'all along. If you're going to do this, let me show you how to do it. Because, right, it is a specific kind of way to do it. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. When kids sent the video, I loved it. I love them being authentically black in a white space. I love the unapologeticness of it.
Ditto.
But then I saw the news thing. I was like,
the same. I had the same exact reaction. Initially, I didn't have any heartburn until I saw that newscast.
And it ain't their fault. That's what they do all of that. If they had been from a black campus and came on, it'd been the same thing. So
yeah.
I'm like, it is a black tradition. And I feel like they should be able to share their black tradition wherever they go, as long as you said, that they keep their black tradition sacred. You know,
yeah.
And I think it can be sacred in white space. You gotta check people.
I agree, but again, I agree. But I go back to it starts with them, though, right? Like if they haven't done the proper, and it's not their fault. Like you get excited about something, but just imagine you're a Greek, you're an alpha. Imagine somebody was like. I just sent you a video. Somebody gets excited about alpha and they just start doing your steps and they don't bother to learn that. They don't get the history. Look at your face. You're tensing up thinking about it.
I'm not tensing up. I just know what happened. You're like, try it. You got processes. So
I think, again,
don't do it on my watch.
Like I said, I had the same reaction when I saw them. I was like, why is this a thing? And then again, sitting with it and that newscast scene, I was like, that's why it's a thing. Because the concern is not what happens when these young women are doing it. It's what happens when other people outside of our culture try to appropriate it, as we know will happen. So, I mean,
right.
What you gonna do? You know what? I do want to shout out something good. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
This is going to be super quick, but I just know since the last time we were on air, we're a big fan of this show, and we haven't had a chance to congratulate Quinta Brunson and our homegirl, my soror, Shirley Ralph, on her first ever Emmy win for Abbott Elementary. It's just such a big deal. I got a super cool. Can I tell you my super cool Shirley Ralph story right quick? It's super quick. So I got inducted to Diller into Delta in 04. And that summer we had a big Delta had a convention, and Shirley Ralph and Suzanne Douglas were among the people honorary members inducted that year. When Shirley Ralph came up to say, in a room full of thousands of Deltas, y'all, like easily probably like 10,000 women in this room. She comes up, she says hello to all the sorors, and she was like, I want y'all to know I'm so happy to be a Delta, and I'm in room number so-and-so. I want all my... She gave her literally the president had to come over, soror, we don't want all these women coming up to your room. But that's how excited
line up.
But I say that it's a perfect, I think, a demonstration of what you see with Shirley Ralph is, I think, what you get. She's everybody's mama, auntie, like she's beautiful, she's talented. So just to see her being honored and recognized for her incredible body of work and her hilarious role on Abbott Elementary is just great. And then Quinta winning, like being the first Black female ever to win like best writing in a comedy series, just amazing. So I just want to shout them out since we didn't get a chance to when they won. But go ahead, you were about to say something.
I got a weird story to tell. Are you ready for a weird story?
Oh, always.
Okay, so I was driving, so I was going from one gig to another gig, going to go teach. And I was going to meet up with some other teachers, right? One of my friends I've known forever. And I was going to this restaurant, right? So I did a voice text in my car. So my car has voice text. I let her play with it all the time. So I told the voice text to text somebody. I said, hey, so here's exactly what I texted. I've got a thread to read. It's a text thread. I'll be at the Playwright. The Playwright's the name of the restaurant. Eating lunch in about 10 minutes if you want to join. My treat. Then the voicemail, the voice messaging system told me, oh, we just sent that to this person. I'm like, oh, that's clearly the wrong person. The person they sent it to was a childhood friend of mine who I haven't talked to in quite a while, all right? She's a cousin of one of my friends. It's a long story. So it sends it to her. So I send her a message, wrong person, LOL, damn voice text. Then she sends me back. Here's what she sends me back. I'm not going to use no names for this. Hopefully this was going to your wife. So I go, whoa, what? So I go, coworker, LOL. And then she sends back male, because ain't no paying for lunch dates for female coworkers. Now take into account, wait.
Who is this friend? I want to call her.
Take into account that me and this friend, I'm not like, we haven't been talking to each other regular since we're like 17, 18. And in the last 20 years, I've maybe talked to her 3 times. All right. So let's take that count. All right. So I say, so she said male because ain't no paying for lunch dates for female coworkers. I say a female and I'm paying her back. I would pay for yours too. She replies, we're childhood friends. That's okay. But female coworkers, I don't like that. Glad I'm single now and don't have to worry about that anymore because those harmless lunch dates turned into I'm working late at hotel dates. At least that's what's happened to me and the things my significant other did. Hence why I'm single now. Anyway, keep it cute and remember your vows. Have a great day and lunch date, she put it in quotes. Now take into account, I ain't talked to you, woman, in 10 to 15 years. Okay, I probably talked to you 5 times in 20 years. So I said, I typed back, that sounds like a Tyler Perry movie. We will do lunch one day. She then replies to me, already ahead of you, currently writing a book about my ordeal. Lunch with you would be great. I love catching up with my old friends. Weekends are my most free time. So wait, now you're trying to have lunch with me, but you just said, I don't, okay. So I said.
Well, she did. She initially told me right out the gate.
Yeah, okay. So that was addendum. So I say, so I, being the ever smart ass, I say, I'll let my wife know. Laughing my ass off. And then she said, make sure. And that's the end of that text thread.
Interesting.
Thoughts?
I have a lot.
So I've got a few questions, but go ahead.
Okay, I have
you
thoughts.
Give me initial thoughts.
Well, do you have questions? What are your questions?
Well, I think my questions is like.
Well, let me give you my initial thoughts, and then you give me your questions.
Go for it.
So before you even got to it, I immediately was like, "Oh, she's been cheated on." Before you even got there, and the reason I did that is because honestly, as a general rule of thumb, I don't disagree with her, but I think the difference is you have to know your person, and you are one of those people who's trustworthy. You're trustworthy.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, you're trustworthy.
Rewind back to the.
You have to know your person. You have to know what? You have to know your person, and you have to be able to trust. Like you and I buy each other lunch all the time. Nicole would never even think, because we have proven we are trustworthy people. Like there's no reason to be concerned about anything. The problem is a lot of people don't respect boundaries, and I want to be super clear here. Super clear. I mean, both married and single people don't respect boundaries. There are a lot of married. I can't tell y'all the number of married people who slide up in DMs, wanting to flirt and make jokes. And the minute you say, and I have literally said to them, I'm sorry, is your wife coming into this or is your wife? That's all of a sudden when they flip. Okay. So I want to be clear that the reason it happens is because people test boundaries. They test the water. So when a woman replies like that, I immediately know she's experienced she's either been in the scenario or where she was the one, or her husband or her person was. So that was my first thought. The second thing is, I do think it matters. I do think it depends on the scenario. Like, again, you and I've known each other for forever. I have a relationship with your wife. Mm-hmm. I would never go out to lunch with somebody who I just met, who was married, and I don't know them as a couple. Like, for example, I just met your friend Dom and Zuzu. I now know them as a couple. I would not just go have lunch by myself with Dom right now. We don't know each other well enough. I don't know his wife well enough. You know what I mean? But over time, if let's say 5 years from now, we spent enough time, I'll give you Cliff and Nene. I would not hesitate to go have lunch with Cliff. I don't think Nene would have any problem with that. We have both proven ourselves to be trustworthy with each other, though. You know what I mean? So I think those things weigh into it. But go ahead.
But it's just funny. Like that's the thing I found funny is that she jumped way past whatever experiences
she was projecting.
Like, so it doesn't matter that the person I had lunch with, I've known for dang near 20
Or that you're paying back.
They're paying her back for lunch. Or that she's one of the reasons I got a job, so she's kind of my supervisor.
Right.
Or, even
that you can be friends with someone of the opposite sex without it leading to something.
Right. Or the very essences of our jobs is the lunch meeting, right? Every single dude, every gig
Let's
that
do
I've
lunch.
Got, we do lunch. We do over lunch. It's the literal thing that you do. But I just found it. So it's funny. So I read this to some coworkers that I'm in the office with now doing the consulting work. And they thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. She's been in unfortunate scenarios where she couldn't trust people.
And I want to say this, that I do love her with all my heart. I do. She's one of my favorite people. But I was just, I was like, what?
But I will say again, I don't think that's unwise.
Oh, no,
I don't think that again, time and circumstances. Right. Every scenario is different. So to put a blanket, you can't and again, you're right. She doesn't know you. She has no idea what when I say she doesn't know you, she doesn't know you as a married man, present day, and how
she knows me as 17-year-old Jamal.
Because if anybody who knows you, honest to God, 10 seconds of seeing you with Nicole, it ain't even a question. And you ain't going nowhere.
Because she'll murder me.
She'll murder you. But also on the flip side, I think we all know that the reverse is true. Like, you're not going anywhere. Y'all are in it, right? Like, I think that, but here's the thing. That's your responsibility to convey to the outside world, right? To say, I'm not stepping out on my wife no matter what. Right. So what happens is people play with those lines and they blur those lines and they flirt and they say things and they suggest things. So that's where you have issues with people who are spending time together. That's where it becomes an issue. When people don't have boundaries.
Right.
So, dope. Anyway. Well, you know what's funny? You were talking about weird stories. I guess I got to tell my weird story now. I got to tell all myself.
Are you about to tell the?
I'm about to tell this story.
Okay. Come on, pause. Before you tell the story, I'm gonna add an addendum. So what happens when Khalilah tells these stories is that over time, she adds logic and context to it that did not happen at the moment of the story.
No, I did tell you this. No. I told you what I'm about to say when I. No.
I'm going to throw a flag on the play.
Okay.
Anytime I see the story going.
You feel free.
Let's go.
Okay. So straight up.
For those who don't know sports, flag on the play is from football. We throw a flag on the play. If you don't know football.
Okay. If they don't even know flag on the play, come on, man. That's pretty common. Even if you're not a. Oh, by the way, before I tell this story, I believe was it Time Magazine, People Magazine, recently named the 1985 Bears the best football team of all time. Just want to put that out there.
Really? They did that?
Yeah.
Well, the Bears are up. The Bears, if they said
1985 Bears.
If they said the defense was the best of all time, I'd give you that.
I'm going to find the link. My daddy posted it. And the only reason I didn't tag you in it immediately is because of like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I said to myself, this is not appropriate to tag my married friend at 5 o'clock in the morning.
The offense was only Walter Payton, but we'll talk about that. The defense was spectacular. Well, that's the whole point I'm saying is that why would it be the greatest team of all time if the offense was just Walter Payton?
I'm saying you don't need nobody other than our sweet friend. Anyway, get back to my story.
Go ahead. Go to your story.
So here's the story. So I ordered some dinner, Uber Eats. Right, I go out to the front door to pick up Uber Eats. So my food is there, but in front of my food is a small brown paper bag with a card attached to it with just my first name. And inside the bag is a bottle of water that says True Life, 2 COVID masks, some random peppermints and other pieces of candy. And the card, which I can't even make out like the second half of it. And actually, I want to make sure my mic is not going out. Can you hear me, Jamal?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So the card says something very generic about, I hope that you and your family are well. And it says some other things that neither I nor Nicole, somebody I texted it to, Jamal, none of us can make out the middle paragraph, but it says something about my family and it says something about shining and growing. And then the last like PS says something about stay safe. Now, so I freak out for a number of reasons. First off, let me just give context. And this is why, and I did tell you this, Jamal, so don't act like I didn't tell you this. So I do a lot of work. A lot of my clients work in reproductive justice. So my name is very visible in a lot of anti-abortion stuff, right? I live in Texas. This is a very conservative state and people are crazy. My address is public information because I own a business. So when I went to our front door and there was my food that I ordered in some random paper bag with my name and a card addressed to me, signed by someone I do not know and I wasn't expecting anything and anticipating, my mind went to the absolute worst case scenario, which is some anti-abortion folks are targeting me. Now I want to say, it's important for me to say this because I'm going to be honest. I had also partook. I partaken. I didn't mind that evening. So it's not that I could not possibly have been a little bit paranoid, but
A little bit?
I genuinely, truly was coming from the space of knowing that people who do this type of work have had people come to their homes and have been physically harmed. So honest to God, my immediate thought was about the anti-abortion work.
If you're on your wait. If you're on your computer right now, if you have your phone, I want you to Google Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Paranoia. And there's this video of Charlie Day and he's like connecting all the dots. That was Khalilah. It was full out. JFK just got shot.
I can't even say it wasn't because I was like, because again, I do this work. I've been traveling a lot to DC. I've been sitting in on policy conversations. So I straight up was like, I'm sending this to the FBI, and I can't.
No, literally, she said. So I come downstairs into full paranoia, like, what the fuck is going on? And I put my energy in the card. I'm like, okay. So my whole goal when I'm looking at the card is I must find something in this car so we know what this is so we can calm her down. So I'm looking at the car, and at one point said, yeah, we're gonna call the police. I'm like, sweet, the police ain't gonna do nothing. They just dropped.
Well, I didn't really mean the police. I meant the FBI because again, I do work in. I did say police, and then immediately after I said, well, I mean the FBI, Jamal.
But the only guilty thing they've done is giving you water and some mints.
Oh yeah, but again, look at it. You're looking at it if I'm a normal everyday person, but what I do is very. Come on, let's be real. It's very controversial what I do, and my name is public information.
They didn't leave it. It wasn't written in blood. They didn't leave your bottle. But it was again. This is where I acknowledge that I imbibed and maybe I went a little overboard. But again, you can create any kind of backstory because in my mind, here's what was happening. The Pure Life bottle of water, because the bottle of water was Pure Life brand. I felt like the COVID mask was like, because a lot of these folks are anti-COVID. I thought the peppermint was because, in church they give you the peppermint to signal to symbolize Jesus, the blood in the right. So I was like, I had gone full left. Now here's what happened, y'all. So Jamal and the person who I texted, they kind of had in mind that the name was either Conrad or Donald. So here's the other thing. The security system, you can normally pull up the security system and see who stopped by the house, but nobody had stopped by and dropped off anything that we could see. So that also made me really nervous that somebody could have been at the house and we didn't know. So long story short, I was like, let me just go look at my Uber Eats. So they finally figured out that the name might be Conrad or Donald. So long story short, I go into my Uber Eats receipt and I see that my last driver for my Uber Eats was named Donald. So I guess this is what Donald does. Donald creates these little, hey, I hope you and your family well. So I was like, he's probably trying to put something nice and wonderful into the world and get him an extra little tip. And I'm ready to call the FBI. You about to get Donald hemmed up. Donald.
I straight up, because again, my clients do have to report a lot of stuff to the FBI. So I straight up was like, we got to call the FBI. But I will say
that was a pause. I want to give you prop. That was a good reenactment for the most part. I would give it a 9. If it was on the PolitiFact, I'd give you a 90%.
I will say afterwards, I was very embarrassed, but hey, in the moment, I was like, oh my God. Well, I had a couple other things that I wanted to talk about, but I am being mindful of the time, so I wonder if we want to save them for
Let's save them for the overtime.
Save them for the post show. So then, can we jump into For the Culture? Because I got one.
For the culture. 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 Mine is actually 2 for the cultures, and the first one's gonna be quick.
I had 8, but go ahead. We gotta catch up. I didn't have 8. Okay, I had like 4 though.
I got 27. No. All right. My first for the culture is going to shout out to my. I think they should pay me money now. The band Salt has just released. They just promo their new album is coming out in the next few weeks. Every album they make is fucking dope. Get the album and then get Cleo Soul's album, who's like my other girlfriend.
I'm so obsessed with her. Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with her.
Her music is spectacular.
Yeah, she's so good. Yeah.
Second for the culture goes out to it's theater tradition right here. Charles Fuller passed away this week. Charles Fuller, for those who don't know, he wrote a soldier's. He's a playwright from the Negro Ensemble Company. He wrote a soldier's play, which became a soldier's story. He wrote Zooman and the Sign. He's wrote several other plays, but if you know those plays, you know that a soldier's play put Denzel on. It put David Allen Greer on. It put Samuel L. Jackson on.
Howard Rollins was a big star.
Yeah,
Adolph Caesar.
Henry Rollins was in it. Howard, I said Henry Rollins, a rock star. Adolph Caesar was in it. It was quite honestly, and still is my favorite play, and the play that made me love theater. It's the first monologue I ever learned was Sergeant Waters. So we always say on this show, we talk about the titans of Black culture and how they're not perceived as titans because they're in a vacuum. And I'm all for we celebrate our titans now. So we're gonna shout out Charles Fuller and give the most respect to him. And then continue to shout out those titans that are alive, like Delroy Lindo, like Stevie Wonder. The list goes on, like Debbie Allen. These are the people that we should be cherishing every single moment of the day because their stories are incredible and impossible anyplace else.
You know what's funny? Last season, Jamal, you introduced a segment that I actually wanted us to pick up this season, and that was a perfect segue into it, which is shit you should know.
Shit you should know.
and people in that, and Charles Fuller is, as you said, absolutely one of those. Obviously, we're theater nerds, so we're very well acquainted with him and his legacy, but we're talking about a Pulitzer Prize winning playwright. We're talking about someone who quite literally wrote what is, I think, one of the most definitive pieces for Black men in theater. I mean, if you're a Black man and you've done theater, how can you not, have a level of adoration after? Yeah, for sure. Year. Yeah. So, rest in peace to him. I think he was 83 when he passed, but, he did get to see the revival of the show on Broadway a couple of years ago. And so thank you for lifting him up. That's dope. Well, you actually, so I'll give mine for the culture. You mentioned Kid Cudi earlier, and I've been on it. I don't know if you all are aware, Kid Cudi has a new project out. It's called Intergalactic. It is a series. He calls it an animated series that has premiered on Netflix, but it also is an album. So you can listen to the album, not watch the movie, watch the movie, not listen to the album. I watched the movie first, and now I'm obsessed with both the movie and the album. Like legit, can't stop watching, can't stop listening. I like Kid Cudi, but I'll be honest, so y'all, for those of you who don't know, there's about a 10-year gap of secular music knowledge that I have from the early aughts, because I wasn't listening to secular music. So when Kid Cudi really kind of came on the scene, I was not listening to that kind of music. So I've been playing catch up on him, but this project oh my God. So let me just tell you briefly, the show also stars Jessica Williams. If you saw the second season of Love Life, you'll appreciate Jessica's doing her thing. She's definitely taken on the romantic comedy lead role quite well.
Used to be the correspondent on the Daily Show.
She's fantastic. So she's in it. Timothy Chalamet, who I'll be honest with y'all, whenever people get all hype about Timothy Chalamet, I'm like, okay, he's cool. I loved him in this. I was like, he's amazing.
Real talk, he's a beast actor though, for real.
He was a good actor, but I was just kind of like, But in this movie, like, I kind of got to see some of his charm, I guess is what I mean. He's very funny in the show. But again, you got Jaden Smith, Ty Dolla $ign, you got Macaulay Culkin, like Tiana Taylor, like everybody is in this movie. Vanessa Hudgens, your boy Keith David. And there are a lot of Easter eggs if you're a Kid Cudi fan. If he has a character, Mr. Rager, that has come up through some of his work. So Mr. Rager is present in the show. It's a romantic comedy. It's only like 90 minutes. But the thing that's amazing about it is animation, very much in the style of the Spider-Man multiverse with your boy Miles Morales. It's that style of animation. So it's very cool, very slick, very hip hop heavy. The gentleman, Virgil, I'm going to mispronounce his last name.
You told Virgil, he passed away? Virgil?
Yes.
Abloh? Yeah.
Yes,
Virgil
thank
Abloh?
you.
I can't remember his last name.
Yeah, he's a huge fashion icon. And he and Cudi had a deep, close relationship. So at any rate, he actually was a costume designer for the show. So you can see like the influence of hip hop. You can see our culture live front and center. But it's really just it's about how, a modern day love story about how people fall in and out of love and how you navigate that. But it's also about being an artist and being true to yourself. So it's really dope. I enjoyed it so much. I've had it on repeat for the last week. I highly encourage you to go see it, go check it out. My suggestion would be to watch the film first. Watch, because it's really, really good.
She said smoke weed while you watch it. For those who are creeped out by that weird.
I mean, honestly, truthfully, even if you don't plan to, you probably will by the time you get 10 minutes. But anyway, so I highly recommend that. And then the only other thing I wanted to say, Jamal, is we got a lot of big stuff coming out for the culture this this month. Skip Gates just had a new show to launch on PBS called Making Black America. All October long, every Tuesday night at 9/8 Central on PBS. Making Black America will drop a new episode. I think you can go on their website to see the previous episodes, or you can look at your local PBS streaming services to see where you can find. But again, Making Black America, Skip Gates' new series, will air new episodes every Tuesday night, all October long at 9.
By the way, Henry Louis Gates is another one of those people. Shit, you should know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A pure genius and icon.
Absolutely. No, and then lastly, I just want to shout out these, The Woman King is still playing. Make sure you're still going to support that film. Atlanta is now in its final season. I'm not going to lie. I think you and I are both holding out on actually diving in because we know it's the last of the last. So, but I definitely am going to get into that. And then, of course, they just dropped the second trailer for Black Panther 2. So we already have our tickets. We're not even waiting till the 11th.
Say it again, Kay. What we got? We already got our what?
We already got our tickets. So okay. If you don't have your tickets, get your tickets. We actually were able to cop tickets for that because the show opens on Friday the 11th, but we got tickets for Thursday the 10th. So
if you don't got your tickets yet, you don't hate it. You hate America. It's cool.
Yeah. Do your part. Even if you don't plan on going, buy your ticket. I bought an extra ticket just because. So that's for the culture for the week, Jamal.
That's it.
Well, we had a full show. We've been gone for a minute, so I felt like a longer show was warranted. It's always good to be back in the mix. We have a bunch of fun stuff, I think, coming up on deck this season for you all. I'm gonna try and talk less. Good luck. Jamal's gonna wear different T-shirts. I guess that'll happen.
This is a different T-shirt.
See, I do. I was actually peeping that. I love the ode to the Beastie Boys. And then of course we're continuing with the video version of the show, so you can always go to our YouTube channel. Usually we drop the audio version of the show on Fridays. You can find us on all of your favorite your podcast streaming platforms, and then on Mondays or Tuesdays you can head over to YouTube to catch the video version of the show, where you can see how well I did my makeup or how I felt that week and whatever T-shirt Jamal decided to put on. So, do you have anything else before we get out here, sir?
I'm all out.
All right. Well, I guess we'll stick around for just a few minutes for a little bit of the after show. So if you want to stick around for the after show, we'll just be here for a couple more minutes. So stick around. But otherwise, thank y'all for coming out. Good night. God bless. Jamal, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the peoples.
Peace out, y'all. We'll see y'all next time. All right. We're here for the after show. Oh, you know what I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about your boy Udoka in Boston.
Yeah, man.
How do you fumble Nia Long, man?
Okay, I got.
And I say this. Listen, I'm a very heterosexual woman, but I say this. Listen, Nia Long is everybody's girl crush. So I'm trying to figure out what more do you need?
So I got a bunch of viewpoints on this. All right. Number one,
I think we probably have the same viewpoints. Go ahead.
So number one is Nia Long, bro. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Like his 16-year-old self is like, dude, are you serious right now?
Let me be clear. There's a scene in the first Best Man, where Nia Long is after I think Tay Diggs got beat up. And Tay Diggs comes over the house. And Nia Long,
one of my favorite scenes ever.
She's wearing this purple lingerie. And when I tell you, I still don't know what they're saying in the scene. To this day, I've seen that scene, but I don't know what words.
I can tell you exactly what she said. She's like, I'm hot, I'm horny as hell, and I want
to. So pause. The only part I heard was I'm horny as hell. I was like, yes. But everything else, I'm like,
yeah, she's fly.
This is amazing.
Nia's bad. Yeah.
So that's number one. But number two is interesting. I heard this. I'm not gonna lie. I don't want to steal no topics. I heard this on my one of my bad habits is listen to Bill Maher's show, and here's a take that I thought of and I wondered about. Ime Udoka has been sent away from his team, and I'm wondering about where the line of workplace relationships, right? Because, okay, so there's a whole bunch of rumors that came out. What it really came down to is that both the people involved, Ime Udoka and this other woman who I will not name, even though other sources are naming her, they're both cheating.
Like literally in the last 24 hours, they've started giving her name.
But this was mutual and consensual. You know, it's mutual consensual relationships. So I understand the contract they have that they write down is not supposed to do interpersonal relationships. I understand that, even though I think it may be a bit archaic, but I understand it. I wonder if I feel that Ime Udoka, even though he's an idiot for cheating on anybody, let alone Nia Long, I do feel like for a minute he was painted with the brush of he might have like been aggressive and going after this woman, as opposed to two consensual people cheating on their respective others, which is a totally different issue. That is not what the first reports were very much like, well, this dude assault her? What happened here? You know, so I want to be careful. That's why I always get worried about stuff like that, in the sense that this brother was cheating. He went against his contract. So yeah, some action should happen. That is very different than how it was described at the very beginning, that he might have been giving her, it might have been unwanted advances, which is not the case as has been reported recently.
This whole scenario for me has been really not even eye-opening, just a reminder of the power of the press, right? And the responsibility of the press. You know, I'm never a fan of people cheating in general.
Right.
I just feel like if you're done, be done. Just go on and shut that thing down. But I do think that there are a couple things here at play. One is, and I think we'll never know the full truth, because you got his word, her word, and the truth lies somewhere in between, is always the case, right? So I think the first thing is there were reports that he initiated so that is the first piece of it, right? Like, you are in a position of power, so initiating any kind of, just don't do it. Like, if you're in a position of power, you cannot initiate. And I say this as someone who's had people in the workplace hit on me. I've dated people in the workplace. I have never initiated anything, and I have never been involved in a scenario where either that person or I were had power over one another, right? Like, we were colleagues, but in totally different departments, totally different areas. Honest to goodness, would only see each other in passing, right? And even now, honestly, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't do that now, right? So that's one. But the other piece to that is the legal aspect. Because we could talk about whether or not you think somebody cheating. I'm not here to legislate your morality. That's you and your business. I don't care about that. But there's the legal aspect, which is when you sign an employment agreement, and certainly at this high level, they have, especially with everything that has happened, you know that they sat this dude down and said, listen, man, we can't have no scandals. We can't have no issues. So he took it upon himself to take this risk. So you take the risk, you got to deal with the consequences. Do I feel like the consequences were excessive? Yes, but I also think they did it to make a point, which is, we're not fucking around, pardon my language, but and they have to do that because we just came off of the Me Too movement, right? Which is people being in positions of power. And here's the argument why. Because to your point about because a lot of the frustration I think that a lot of people are having, and there's several different things. He's a black man, it's assumed. She's a white woman. I think even the reports a couple in the last 24 hours that she's a white woman who's a Mormon, who's married with 3 kids, whatever. So all of that being said, so there's a lot of feelings that he got, right? So there's a lot of feeling that he got branded with the scarlet letter, and she got protected, right? So there's that feeling, right? But even if she said yes, the reason that's a problem is because the argument that is often made is, if she felt like he was in a position of power over her and she had no other choice but to say, that's the problem. That's where so that's why they say we can't figure that piece out. So just don't do it.
Right.
So he chose to do it. So it is what it is. But I do think the punishment is excessive. But
yeah, my feeling almost in this, if you're gonna, for a coach, if you're gonna take him out of a team for a year, might as well fire him.
Yeah, that's seriously.
That's
and honestly, truthfully, that's probably what they wanted to do. But legally, I'm sure that they were like, we don't want to get sued. You know what I mean? Like, so they probably gave him the harshest punishment that they felt like they could, short of being sued. So honestly, what I care more about is the fact that the coverage of this continues to be on every major network and sports network, but we barely hear boo about Brett Favre, who's stolen nearly $5 million.
Let's talk about that.
That's what I want to get into.
So, because here's the thing, I love this is border on sports talk. I love it. So, Brett Favre, he's a famous quarterback, if you don't know. Famous quarterback from the Green Bay Packers, who I hate.
I mean, I'm already predisposed to not care.
We both hate Green Bay Packers. I cannot remember Brett Favre was stealing money from a fund that was intended for people who are
temporary assistance for needy families. That's literally the name of the welfare program. $77 million that was intended for that program was stolen.
But most importantly, say the state.
Mm-hmm. Mississippi, the poorest state in the country.
And Brett Favre is stealing all this money. Now, listen. Here's the racial component of this. Because this in the coverage. When Terrell Owens, who let me be real clear, I cannot stand Terrell Owens. Mm-hmm. Though Terrell Owens has never done anything illegal. Terrell Owens has never been put in jail. Terrell Owens, and Terrell Owens, for all my disgust of Terrell Owens, balled his ass off on the field, right? When Terrell Owens, he's seen in the press as a superhuman, horrible human being. Mm-hmm. When he's supposed to be going to the Hall of Fame, he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer because he's one of the top 5 receivers ever. It took him, I think, 3 tries to get into the Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, on the other side, you have Brett Favre, the golden boy, who has abused drugs, and now this, where he's stolen $77 million, and we don't hear nothing. It is a footnote.
Mm-hmm. From this Hall of Famer.
Right. So we really have to talk about the vilification, the easy vilification of Black people, and how we protect our, whatever they call it. They protect these false idols that they put up there. Mm-hmm. By all reports, Brett Favre is not a good person.
Straight up.
Right. Straight up. He's not a good person. Yeah. He's a dick of a human being, it seems to be, but somehow he's remained insulated for all of his career. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. No. Even little things like, I remember when Donovan McNabb was playing for the Eagles, and Donovan McNabb, Donovan McNabb's throwing pass. He throws an interception. He gets killed in the press, murdered in the press. Brett Favre, who probably has, I think he has the most interceptions in NFL history, made bad decisions. It says, oh, he's a gunslinger. He's a risk taker. It comes out as this macho shit. And I am so sick and tired of the perception of what happens to Black people in the press. Period.
Point blank, period. I want to go a step further because I want to be specific about this, right? So a lot of folks are saying, well, he's being brought to justice. I want to be clear. He's not being brought to justice. He is the defendant in a civil suit. He has not been charged criminally for this, you all. You hear me?
Please let Terrell Owens been found stealing $77 million.
I mean, so the $77 million was across 35 different people, right? Like more than 35 people and companies. But I want to specifically call out the use of his fund. He had more than $4 million they found more than $4 million was used to back the volleyball center from his alma mater, University of Southern Mississippi, where his daughter was playing volleyball at the time. Now, here's why this matters, ladies and gentlemen. At least this is why it matters to me. So, University of Southern Mississippi is a public school. It's a public university. It's a university that, if you're familiar with Mississippi, is very well funded. On the flip side to this, you have HBCUs who have continually been underfunded by the government, so much so that several schools in Maryland had to sue the federal government last year to even get the funding that they were owed. Okay. 4 historically Black colleges in Maryland, Coppin State being one of them, Bowie State, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and Morgan State are now all slated or have begun to receive $577 million that'll be distributed over 10 years. They had to sue, ladies and gentlemen, the government to get that funding that Brett Favre can just send a text to and steal from the poorest state in the country and people who need that support. So that's why this is such a big deal. When we talk about the difference go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'll just back at the point because you're several great points. Imagine if Deion Sanders, who at Jackson State right now, if Deion Sanders had been put in a scandal where he's a part of stealing $77 million from a social fund
and used it to send his kid or a team that his child was on.
Do you think somebody wouldn't be prosecuting him in the courts for real? Not civilly, but actually.
So this is the last thing I got to tell you, because this morning I saw this, Jamal, I almost threw the phone. Guess who his lawyer is?
Who?
his lawyer is Eric Hirschman, who is also an attorney who was part of the defense team for then President Donald Trump in his first impeachment trial.
Mm-hmm. And it all comes together.
So if you don't think he's a crap at this point, that should have been a nail in the coffin. Oh, a Trump lawyer? Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Fucking Brett Favre.
Well, right. On the flip side, and we probably need to wind down, but I did want to ask you, did you see the video from LL Cool J in response to DJ Academic's shade against the older generation of hip hop folks?
No, I've not seen this yet. I've heard some little bits about DJ Academics. I know Charlamagne the God was like, "Yo, what have you given to the culture?"
Which is hilarious. If Charlamagne the God is calling you out, I have to say, I'm like, that should make you go, wait.
You know what? You know what we need to do right now? Here's what we're gonna do. After this episode, we're not gonna call him Charlamagne the God no more. I need to find this dude's name because I'm so sick and tired of calling him.
What's his real name?
I don't know. We need to Google it.
Oh, we're gonna find it out. Okay.
I was like.
Because I don't like calling him that either. First of all, it's offensive to me.
Yeah, right.
You ain't my God.
You ain't my God. What are you talking about?
But yeah, no, we can definitely do that. Yo, I forgot what we were talking about there.
Oh, you talking about
I was talking about LL. So long story short, so DJ Academic, which again, everybody keeps pointing out, is he a DJ? But he made some flippant comments, and I apologize, I don't have the full statement, but you can Google it. It's pretty much everywhere now. But he made some kind of shady comments about how the pioneers of hip hop, the older generation of hip hop, how they're not really the ones to look to for guidance or information because look at them. They're literally use the word dusty. They have no money, yada, yada, yada. So LL,
oh my God.
Right. So LL did what LL does so well. First of all, I always am reminded when LL talks that he's always been one of those people who can correct you, but do it with so much love. Like he always comes from a place of love, and he came from a very genuine place of love, but he got them together. And I'll see if we can find a link to share in the show notes. But long story short, he was saying, don't mistake money for contribution. Right. He was like, you're talking about people who were dancers, people who created fashion. We're talking about all these things that contributed to the culture of hip hop that now the entire world bites off of. So for you to not acknowledge that and to say that because he was like, when rap started, we didn't have business deals. We didn't have managers because rap didn't exist. He was like, right. There were no people to guide us, to tell us how to navigate the business. So yeah, there are a lot of people who got taken advantage of who don't have money now, but that doesn't mean that their contributions are any more valid. And he was so great about saying, he was like, yo, I'm always talking about secure your bag. You should definitely secure your bag, but don't assume that because somebody doesn't have a big stack of cash that they haven't given anything of value. So right. It's set off, and so a few other folks weighed in, MC Lion and some other, older folks. It took me back. I just started pulling up some KRS-One. I was like, I need teacher right now. I need teacher to drop some knowledge because it was just so disrespectful. Go ahead, jump in here.
It's so stupid. But the thing that annoys me, I feel like hip hop is the only culture where we don't we don't adore our elders. You know. Like if Paul McCartney shows up at a damn, if he shows up at a concert of a younger artist, that younger artist is going to be like, oh my God, it's fucking Paul McCartney.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And just like we, if I remember the first time you talked about when you saw DMC, I mean, like, that's like, what?
Yes.
That's how much reverence you have for the culture.
Yes.
Right. And that's the thing is like, you get these younger rappers, not all of them. The best ones are the ones who pay homage, like the J. Cole, the Kendricks, who understand the history of this,
Yeah.
But it's
building
so
on something.
That without a Rakim, without, KRS-One, without Grandmaster Flash,
all of them.
Without them, this economic base that y'all have, economic growth does not even fucking exist,
Yeah. And it's just so, I guess the thing to me too is this is the thing that can be very frustrating. And I think it's a product of American capitalism, but also Black folks not having so much for so long. This hyper focus on money.
Yeah.
Listen, y'all, I enjoy being in nice scenarios and being able to afford things and not have to stress about money as much as anybody else. But if everything in your life is about the material, what are we doing? What are we doing? And more often than not, we talk about this all the time on the show. If you follow what you're supposed to be doing, your passion, your love, if you're giving, money will find you. Opportunities will find you. Resources will find you. It might not even be cash in your pocket, but you'll be taken care of. And so it's this obsession with money being the only way in which to determine that you've been successful, and a lack of appreciation and respect, like you said, for the folks who built this. We're talking about folks who never would have had the opportunities that some of these young folks have, and just to shade them is beyond me.
I always try, when I'm arguing with other dudes about rap, and I always get oh man, when I start bringing up, like, when we talk about greatest rappers, for me, like, and we'll get into a different stuff, but when you talk about greatest rappers, it's like, if you don't acknowledge Rakim, then what are we doing?
Well, he can't not be on the list, because everything that we listen to present day is because Rakim said, I'm gonna change the flow.
He changed, and then literally everybody started copying it immediately. And it can be traced to all
it was
hip
a
hop
Sugar Hill Gang.
Right, everybody.
Yeah, he took that thing and made it like hard.
But to me, it's just that misunderstanding of what. So like in the NBA, it's the equivalent of saying, the greatest basketball player is LeBron James, without realizing that LeBron came from Jordan, came from Magic, came from Dr. J, came from
Come on, Russell. We can go down.
It just keeps going back,
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, because that is another frustrating thing for me. I'll never forget, maybe a couple years ago, I was talking to a young man, and we were talking about basketball. And of course, I grew up a Jordan fan or whatever. But the dismissive, and I always know that people have a feeling about Jordan not being the greatest, and I'm fine with that. That's fine. But to be dismissive and that, like, you're not even, I'm like, are you serious?
I say this as somebody who's a part of the president and chairperson of the Jordan Haters Club. It's a ridiculous statement to make.
Right. But to your point, like, saying that would be the equivalent of you and I saying Dr. J contributed nothing, Bill Russell contributed nothing.
What are you talking about?
What are we even doing? Willis Reed.
We just had a whole young demographic turn.
Sorry. But I will say, and we can wrap it up after this, but I will say it's interesting because when Dominic was here, your friend Dom, we had a conversation about this, about whether or not young people listen. And I was like, I'm always mindful to not fall into the young people don't listen, because I'm always like, first of all, who raised those young people? Like, they didn't just drop out of the sky, right? So if they're not acting or performing in a way that we as the generation who raised them are happy with, then we have no one but ourselves to blame. And I really mean y'all, because I have no kids. But but my point being, like, that, but it's also cyclical. Every generation thinks the generation that came before them dropped the ball on something, missed something, doesn't quite understand. That's the nature of life. Right. It just is. What I think is missing is when we don't realize where we fall in that cycle of life. We have to recognize, you and I we're now part of the elders. Now, we're not the elders. We still have our parents, but we're now the ones, like, you're raising a child. You're bringing the next generation into the world. So there's a responsibility that comes with that. But if young people aren't being respectful of older people, then we have ourselves to blame for that.
Well, this last little bit. It just reminded me of my years of teaching high school. I had these two students. I can't remember their names, and I shouldn't say it anyway. But these two students would they'd always hit me. They see me like when on a teacher, when I'm on t-shirts. I'm like, oh, Mister, you. So they start talking about rappers, and I was real careful to, like, let them know that's whack. That's nice. So whenever it was like we're talking about old rappers and we're talking about newer rappers, they're always surprised when I like something. They're like, oh, Mister, you like Kendrick? I'm like, I love Kendrick. Kendrick's amazing.
Because he on some real stuff.
Right. So then we start, like, we'll sit down and break down, like, why I like Kendrick, why I like J. Cole, why I like Joey Badass. And then it's very important with young people that you don't just dismiss, that you give context, give context and reasoning, and respect their art.
Absolutely.
Especially if their art, you can say you don't like stuff, or that's not for you, but give the stuff that you give credence to the stuff that's good. They that's all they want. They want that, like, something I have is related to something else.
And you hit the nail on the head, because I always go back to I think about this a lot when I'm dealing with my nieces, nephews with India, any of my godchildren, which is, when I was their age, because I often felt like I was ignored, like my feelings were ignored because kids were meant to be seen and not heard when we were growing up, right?
Right.
So I do think that people get to, you're right, that they go to this extreme of ignoring younger people. And I think it's, like you said, there is going to be those things where we just don't like the same things, but it's very easy to say, oh, that's not my thing, but hey, that's what you like. Tell me why you like that. Yeah. Right. And what I find is it's a bridge to conversation. You have introduced old movies that were classics from your childhood and movie to India and on. But the flip side of that exchange is when she wants to do things with you, you're like, okay, what are you interested in? That's the piece that so often is missing between the generations.
Just yesterday, she just put me on. She put on a new artist. You got to listen to this girl. She has.
I saw she had a playlist for the road trip.
Oh my God!
And also, dope. By the way, I'm telling you, they did an amazing road trip. Indy just turned 12. Shout out to my girl, Dara. She just turned 12. Woohoo!
12 years old, going on 40.
And I got to tell you, when I saw the photos, I was so jealous that I didn't go, but I was here working all day. So
it was fun, man. It was fun.
Yeah, I looked like it. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to make maybe I'll take my nephew because that looked fun. So
it was dope.
Yeah.
It was dope.
Well, all right. Well, we're back in the saddle officially. So, folks, y'all know where to find us every week here on Whatever We Want with J&K. Reminder, you can follow us on social media at Chief Disruptor Productions. That's where all of our information will be. And then also, of course, if you want to see this YouTube clip or the video version of the show, you can see it on YouTube. So at Chief Disruptor Productions. So, Jamal, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye to the peoples.
We'll see y'all next week, y'all. Peace out.
Fuck Clarence Thomas.
Whatever We Want with J&K is produced by Chief Disruptor Productions, with post-production support by Streamlined Podcasts. Stay up to date when we post new content when you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, and most podcast streaming platforms. And don't forget to follow us on IG at Whatever We Want with J&K, and also on Facebook and Instagram at Chief Disruptor Productions. See y'all next week. Peace.